Well, for the last 20 years, I've been interested in Runcorn's regeneration of the town, really. It kind of happened towards the end of my degree in the last year. There was a place called Southgate in Runcorn, which was all these flats, and what it kind of did was Southgate, it kind of knocked it down and created a new housing development and created a retail park at the same time. So my job, what I felt was all the time, was my job was to kind of record that, and because that was a major change in the place I grew up, and I thought it'd be really interesting to kind of, record that at that moment in time. But I feel as though the work I'm interested in goes back to my childhood. Growing up with a family of builders, construction workers, and kind of on my weekends when I was 14, 15 and 16, I was working with my dad on building sites, to earn some pocket money. So it kind of gave me a taste of kind of how something was made from the foundations to a finished building, or finished interior, whatever the job we were doing. So it's kind of it's always been there, that interest in the construction industry. Well, when I moved back home to Runcorn, my first initial kind of interest was having a look and see how it was changing the waterfront. So my first initial ideas was go down sketching, take some photographs. That was on a weekly basis, and I kind of recorded how the towers were suddenly starting to appear out of the water. Over time, the project kind of developed and become more of an obsession, really, because I was getting more interested in, especially when the building process started to speed up a bit. We went on site and they give me like this tour and took me up into the cranes and they wanted me to go into the crane, give me a 360, but I was too scared to go there because I don't like heights. But going up in a lift was really, really great, because that was it was a windy day like today, and it was moving. You could feel it swaying slightly. But it was such a good experience being on site, and I had Alan BILLINGE and I had Paul, invaluable advice about the work. But they'd come down to the studio, talk to me about the artwork I was producing, talk about give me the technical knowledge, what you were doing on that job that day, how many tons of concrete there were, how many tons of steel there were. Because that's what when they'd come round and look at the work, they would email me photographs every other week. Because I couldn't get on, I could only go on site once, and they took me on for 4 hours and left me on my own, so I could walk all the way around. Let me walk down the scaffold on my own, because I was 160 foot, because I was terrified, and let me walk down on my own slowly at my own pace. That's just to get onto the deck bit, and go down another 160 foot just onto the road underneath. And that was pretty scary, that. And then, so they'd send me photographs of what they were doing on a weekly basis. So I had hundreds and hundreds of photographs. And I could ask them questions about what that particular was. Like some of the drawings in there is like the cofferdams were inside it, which is the foundations for the bridge that go right into the seabed. So I got all that knowledge from them. That's why I wanted to kind of, with the bridge project, get a kind of exhaust all avenues of it, really. See it from multiple viewpoints. I've seen it from underneath the bridge. I've seen it from the crane driver's viewpoint, looking down on how it impacts on the Mersey. I've seen it from night time. I've seen it from early morning. See when the tide's out, when the tide comes in. Travelling over it, which is interesting as well, because you've got the link then to Fiddler's Ferry project, which is when the towers are steaming, is really interesting. I wanted to get right deep into that project and see it from all viewpoints and all perspectives.
This view is my everyday view, the walk from the cabins down to, to the job site. So familiar for so long. Spent 2 years here on this job. Mortgage payments, holidays, everything came from this. Being a local lad, it was fantastic. Fantastic. We use so many local labour on it, local companies with, you can see in the picture here you've got concrete pumps from St Helens, from the local area. When we started building these, each of the individual pylons was a separate structure. So when they were coming up and they were freestanding, they could move. You could get a little bit of deviation in its form and structure. You had to make sure that your base was solid. There's over 1,000 cubic metres went into the base pour, the plug pour at the bottom, to start off before we started coming up with the pylon. Yeah. So, wholly impressive. The logistics side of it was really impressive to get the concrete to the place that it was going, and the pumps in place, and we built 2 batching plants, 2 concrete plants on site to make sure that we always had our own concrete on site instead of having to ship it in by road.
Because the project's quite monumental. Yeah. Do you have quite a few different nationalities working on the project? And
certainly
different tradesmen from different countries?
Yeah. The owners of the bridge, the guys that financed it and set it up and designed it and built it, was Samsung. So we had a lot of Korean engineers on site. When we came to build it, no one builds bridges in the UK. We just don't do it. And we contracted in a company from Portugal called Consta Gomes. So we had Portuguese workers, Korean engineers, Spanish labour managers, English logistics, all coming together and working as a whole. And then when we get down to installing the cables, we were using a French company, VSL, and they were coming in. So we had French engineers from that with Romanian and Polish labour. It was an absolute United Nations of tradesmen, real skilled guys from around the world to make this work, and it did. This bridge for the local economy, the local community, is absolutely crucial. When we took on the contract, when Kia took on the contract with Samsung FCC, one of the key driving things behind it was to make the community better, to invest in the community. So we had a lot of guys coming into construction that had been long-term unemployed. So they were coming into the construction industry with no experience, no training, no skills really. And they got put through, there were guys in the mid to late 30s, early 40s that were getting put into like an apprenticeship. So they were going through like a construction skills academy, and they were coming away from, being on job seekers allowance for 5 to 10 years to suddenly earning £600 to £700 a week. It was a social thing as well as a construction and hard work. People form real deep relationships. It is phenomenal. It's phenomenal. And the money back into the to the local area, £2 a journey is nothing. It's nothing. That's what we're talking about. But the money that was invested for the people it's impressive. Highly impressive.
I've enjoyed the project. It's been a challenge. I enjoyed painting the nocturnal ones. They were a real challenge. Kind of wanted to play around with tonal values and see what I could do with that. And I was interested in the reflections of flickers of light on the water. Really interesting to see it from its very, very early creation to kind of the opening, the sleek finished design, people travelling over it. There's no traffic jams anymore. The traffic flows freely. It's attractive on the waterfront. It's been a really interesting project for me. It's been a challenge as well because obviously I like to play around with scale. Where some pieces have been quite small and more intimate, done directly on site, and some pieces have been worked from smaller drawings and paintings to something quite large scale to show how big the actual monumental the project was and how it affected the waterfront, how it's opened the whole infrastructure for the northwest. So it's definitely been a really interesting project. I've enjoyed every minute of it.